Evening, cheeseheads. I'm back out of semi-retirement, hosting the show. Because Craig's pulled out at the last minute. So cheers, mate. But welcome to tonight's edition of the Cheese Room podcast. I'll be your host, Gibbo, for tonight. And tonight we will be talking about the impact Ange Postecoglou has had on Spurs. I've not had a chance to come on and talk about it yet, so I'm looking forward to this. Little bit of housekeeping. Get it out of the way early doors. Please hit the like button if you like what we're talking about. Hit the like button if you don't like what we're talking about, just to be nice. If you haven't subscribed already,
three times.
If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe.
Yeah.
And now that's out the way, let's get into it. First with me tonight, top right-hand corner, HG, not seen you for a while. How have you been? You been enjoying the football, mate?
Well, I thought it was international week, so I got my England top on. I'm talking about Spurs again. I'm all right. I'm all right. I've got a gimpy shoulder, sadly, which is hurting quite a lot. But generally speaking, I'm all right. It's good to be talking Spurs again.
You think you can plough on through, HG? We're going to be all right? Or you're going to have to nip off and...
Yeah, as long as I don't move.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting down and not moving my arm or using my arm or any kind of Körperspannung, I don't know what that is in English.
Yeah.
Then I should be all right. Otherwise, it hurts like bleep. It really does. But yeah, I'm all right.
Well, we'll try and make this fun, mate, so you don't feel the pain. And down at the bottom on his own, somebody who lives not a million miles from me. First time on the show with myself. It's Stu. How are you, Stu? All right, mate?
Yeah, mate. We've been chatting a lot on the chat and sort of circling each other, but we've first time together on the show. So yeah, that's cool. First of many, hopefully. I'm sweltering. I'm trying not to move like HG, but for a very different reason. Just I don't want to sweat. I'm boiling hot. It's 76% humidity here in Bristol. It's horrific. It's not nice. So I bought up my Tottenham Yeti Cool bottle. So if you're hot and you want some nice cold water, get one of these bad boys. Really nice. You'll generally see them in the press conferences. But yeah, a good buy. It's not got alcohol in. It's just water.
We're going to get a load of shit in the chat now because we're trying to sell stuff at the club shop. We'll be part of the problem by the end of the show tonight. But yeah, look. Obviously, 4 games in on league games. I'm not going to include the cup unless you want to, HG. 3 wins, 1 draw. Big Ange at the wheel.
Let's talk about the cup game at the end of things. But in the league, I mean, if it wasn't for City, we'd be top. And that's a pretty good phrase for anyone to say, let's face it. So as far as I'm concerned, we are basically the champions because we're not doped. So right now, Spurs are top of the league, and long may it continue. But it's not even winning. Do you know that's the crazy thing? As much as it's fun to win and enjoyable to see us score lots of goals, it's just, watching a Tottenham that I want to watch is somehow more important. It's crazy.
Yes, Stu. I mean, it's weird, isn't it? Where I know we had a little period under Conte where everything was good, but we're actually enjoying, first and foremost, watching Spurs. Can't wait for the next game at the minute, can we?
Yeah, I've got withdrawal symptoms already. I need some of that Ange ball. I've been rewatching the match uncuts, goals, trying to get anything and everything that's Tottenham related at the moment, just to just sort of keep me satisfied until the 16th when I'll be back at the stadium for the Sheffield United game and hopefully another really good home performance. I can't believe how long it's been since we've played at home. I'm just having a look. When did we play Man United?
That would be it was my birthday weekend. So 19th of August. Yeah.
Since we've played at home, that's just bonkers. So I mean, it's been a long time coming. We're light years away from where we were, and it's just incredible how quickly Ange has turned the culture around and the vibe of the whole club and stuff. So long may it continue at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, HG, like we were just saying, are we where we are? I mean, we thought there'd be a few more bumps in the road, and there's still plenty of time for that. Is it because of what Ange is doing with the team, or is it because apart from Man United, we've been pretty lucky with the fixtures? How do you feel about that? What do you think? What do you think's happening? What do you think it is that's causing us to be like this? Is it Ange, or is it just a perfect storm?
I always assumed that the bumps in the road would be that our players just struggled to play the way that Ange wanted. And avoiding the fact that we made so many changes for Fulham, I don't feel like we've struggled in that area. Like I said, when we were talking about buying centre-backs, to me, I feel like a centre-back in Ange's system needs to mop up. That's basically their job. So if they're tall and they're fast and they're good on the ball, which Van der Ven is, no wonder he looks like a world beater after 4 games. He's not being asked to defend a great deal. Romero obviously looks better, but I think he's got the confidence with him as well. Like he's got a lot of confidence. It feels like he can play any role. But I just feel like the big thing with Spurs is that the only problem that we've had, and it is a big problem that we lost in that League Cup game, or that we went out, let's say, we didn't even lose. But it just feels as if the issues that I expected to see, which would be, teams maybe taking advantage of how we were playing and that we weren't used to it. I mean, maybe those bumps happen in pre-season. Do you know what I mean? I haven't.
Yeah.
I know that if you look at historical names, then Brentford, Bournemouth, and Burnley, you'd think, okay, we can win that. But again, those were the 3 away games, right? Yeah. And so to get 7 points from those 3, to beat Man United at home for the first time in the new stadium, like I don't think we certainly shouldn't underplay how good the results have been. I quite like the idea of being under the radar a little bit, but I don't want to underplay that Spurs, whatever bumps in the road, certainly in the league, I haven't really seen it.
Yeah. Stu, straight to you. Are you surprised at how quick Ange Ball's taken off? Are you surprised by that? Or do you think it'd take a bit longer? Or do you think he's the type of guy that worked his magic pretty quick?
No, I'm definitely surprised. I think given how dire things were sort of towards the end of last season, how badly we were playing, it looked like the whole team was sort of imploding, like the whole, people like Romero were just sort of hacking people over, getting sent off, just losing.
I'd say the club, Stu. The club felt like it was
the whole
imploding.
Sort of imploding. So I thought, I basically, when we hired Postecoglou, and you sort of delved into his history and how he goes into clubs, and he needs like maybe a season just to sort of get things. And then in that season, it would be a little bit rocky. I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm happy just to sort of almost not write the season off, but just like be very chill. What happens, because he needs time to settle in. But to have done it that quickly is, for me, is testament to him as a coach and the team that he's brought in, and also the new players that we've got, because a lot of the players that were there under Conte and stuff aren't actually in the team anymore. There's a good bunch of new recruits that I think are buying into his way of doing things, and I think if this is the standard of player that we're going to sort of have going forward, then I think potentially we're onto a really good thing. So I was very surprised, to be honest.
I mean, again, I didn't play football to a high standard, but when I played football as a kid, I wanted to play with the ball, right? Like this idea of and I was a defender, and I knew my job was to stop the ball going in, but I was quite happy if my team had the ball because I could just watch the game. I was I could focus on the one thing I had to do, which was mark the centre forward. And so I feel that for any football player, you have to be a very weird creature to look at Mourinho and Conte's style of football and think this is what I grew up dreaming of doing. Like they may well have been good at it in some cases and won titles because of how that how they played football. But I just feel that especially when you've had 4 years of the same old defensive nonsense, and doing one tiny change feels like the biggest thing in the world. And so for the players, obviously, if you look at the team that started on Saturday, a lot of them weren't involved at all, really, last season. And it's not just the ones that we've bought this season. It's even Porro was playing, but I don't think anyone thought he would be the first choice starter for Ange. And it just feels as if Ange knows what he wants to do and how he's going to do it. And so he's found the players that can do it. And I think it's obvious for anyone watching, we can look at it and be like, this guy suits what we do, right? Like Bissouma and Pape, like neither one of them really got a look in under Conte last season. If they did, it was because of injuries or because it was bare bones in the case of Sarr. But now they look like, but they are the first names on the team sheet.
Yeah, well, what we'll do, obviously, you've just made a point there. Well, I'll come to you, back to you, HG, and then I'll go to Stu. But like when we were sort of picking the team before the season started, you're thinking, oh, what I'd love Ange to do is do this. I'd love to see you, Doggy, and Porro at fullbacks. And we were like, oh, he plays front foot flowing football, but Porro right back and the Doggy left back will be a bit, that would be the dream. But, I don't think we'll do that. And he's doing it. He's got like the guts, and that is like the beauty of watching it. You're watching it thinking, this is unreal. He's doing what like us as fans want to see. And at the minute, it's working. And so like you come on to this comment we've got here. We did start well under Jose and Conte, but like this time stats, we didn't look that good. But we sort of like back then, I think me and you, HG, and some others, you say, it's unsustainable to keep getting points and winning playing like this. Whereas what we're doing now, that we're going to build on it, or you get the feeling we're going to build on it, and it's just a completely different feeling from those times, isn't it? From under the last two or the three coaches.
Yeah, because you assume we're going to get better at it. I mean, I know it sounds crazy to have 10 points and still say this, but I don't really feel that we've played that well. We've had moments and we've taken chances, right? Like I feel like the 2-0 victory at Bournemouth was probably the best result because it felt as if we were in control for most of that game, if not all of that game. Going 1-0 down to Burnley, it felt very quickly that we weren't in control, despite the fact that we scored 5 unanswered. But it does feel as if, like, of course I'm going to be worried in a few games' time when we've got Arsenal and Liverpool. And I don't like the idea of us going to the Emirates and playing an expensive game because they may well be better at it than we are. But you know what? I know that that's what we're going to do. And so I have time to get used to it. And I hope, that may well be the best way forward is to outscore them. So considering the style of football and the chances that we created, we had 30 shots in the first pre-season game. And we all thought, is this normal? And then we did it again, and then we did it again. And we're consistently having more possession than the opposition. We're consistently having lots of shots. And finally, now that Son was in the middle, we scored 5. I mean, it's not as if we scored 2 in every game before that. But we look like a decent side that should only get better.
But HG, I know what you're saying. Arsenal might be better at it. But if the result is the same as it was last year, hopefully not. But I think you'll come away with it feeling better because last year we waved the white flag at one point at the Emirates last season, didn't we? We got to a point. That ain't happening again, is it, Stu? But I know we give them 2 goals, but literally Conte in a North London derby, Nuno the year before basically played without a midfield. And we just went there and you thought there's no hope here. Last year, waved the white flag. And then this year, whatever comes up, whatever we come up against, we're going to have a go, aren't we, Stu? And like we were talking about the things that Ange is doing in pre-season, we've been talking about and saying, I'd love him to do that, but I can't see it. And he's doing it. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing about Ange. I think he's not risk averse. He will just want them to go out and play his football. And if we get the win, fantastic. If we lose, obviously he'll be annoyed that we haven't won, but we'll go out and we'll play our style of football against them. And I think this is probably a good time to play both Arsenal and Liverpool because they're both settling. For some reason, Arteta is messing about with the system that almost won them the league last year. And I've watched a few of their games now, and they've not been that particularly convincing. I don't think they were that convincing against Man United, even though they won. So I think playing them and Liverpool with a totally new midfield, and they could still lose Salah before we play them as well if the Saudis keep putting silly money in. So yeah, I think it's good to get these sort of like if we can get. I've said before, if we can get 2 draws out of those games, that gives us a really good base to keep building throughout the season. And I think it's all about confidence. And I think we're beginning to see a level of confidence coming through the team now. So we just need to sort of not. And this is the thing. This is the real test for me of Ange at Spurs, and it's very early. Is going into a game like that, how him in terms of a man manager and getting the players geared up and hyped up and stuff, but doing it in a way where they're actually in control, not, it's North London derby, come on. And then we end up getting someone sent off for a stupid tackle or someone makes a mistake because they're so hyped up, they're not actually in control of the game. And I think that's what we need from Ange. And I think the good thing is he's coming from the Scottish League, which is a bit of a joke league, but he's managed in some of the Glasgow derby, for God's sake. If you want a big derby, you can't get much bigger than that. So, and he's navigated a ton of them. So I think if we've got anyone who's got really good experience managing this sort of environment and going into that sort of game in particular, then yeah, that's going to be his first sort of real pressure moment. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he deals with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we said HG before we come on air, obviously International Week. What should we discuss? We sort of said, look, we can do a little preview of the season so far, 4 games and a cup game. But we said, you said, I think what we need to do is I think we sort of need to make this sort of like an Ange review. So where do you think after these 4 games now, where do you think we go with Ange? What do you think he's going to do coming up to those big games? I don't think he's going to be the guy that, he's not going to be the guy that sort of like changes those tactics at all, is he? We go for Liverpool and Arsenal the same as we would any other team, HG. Do you think?
Yeah,
do you think that's
I'm not
right?
even sure it's about change. So, first of all, hi, Bren. Good to see you.
Hey, guys.
Hi, Bren.
I think the biggest thing is that we won't change our tactics, but we will understand, and I'm sure Ange understands, that we won't have the ball all the game, and we will be under pressure at certain points in the game. And when that happens, then those attacking fullbacks will have to be defensive fullbacks. And yeah, we know that Martinelli against Pedro Porro. I'm not so keen on seeing that, but if we do have the ball, we now know that we've actually got a chance of doing something with it and hurting teams. It felt as if for the last few seasons it was more luck than judgment, and we certainly never saw it coming. But if we're good enough to keep the ball, then we will hurt these teams. And like lots of teams last season, because Arsenal were very good, they stood off. They didn't try and go toe to toe. And I feel like if teams are going to play what I've always called half court, football, where they want to press up high, then okay, they can do that as long as we've got the pace to get in behind. And now I feel like we do. I feel like we've got people who can hold the ball in midfield. We can pass through teams. We can make runs from deep, and we'll be able to hurt those teams. It won't be like, the last few seasons where it has felt, okay, well, we're playing a big team. Let's pray. Because that's really all we've had is prayer. Like, I remember the Man City game where Kane scored the winner right at the end. We played really well that day, really, really well that day. But at times we were under the cosh, and at times it didn't look like it was going to work. But we took our chances and we went away with the victory. That's what Ange will be looking to do. It's just that he'll want to have more possession while doing it.
Yeah. Brendan, I'll come to you, mate, because you've just come in. We've been discussing, obviously, we were going to do a season review so far, but we thought we'd review Big Ange's impact on Spurs. Obviously, you've just come in, mate. What are your thoughts on what he's done to what he's brought to the club for this first part of the season?
Yeah, so far so good. If this is the slow start under Ange, I'm all in. It's been great just to see a complete sea change in how we play. The way he communicates. We've discussed this plenty of times. I'm sure it's been discussed on the YouTube as well. But it's just good to have someone that takes responsibility. That he's not another redknapp. He's himself. I think he's quite direct. I think that was what Van der Ven said that recently. That he's very direct in what he says. But there does seem to be a really good spirit in the team, which is needed after. Conte just burnt the house down while he left. So, big fan of Big Ange, and like we've discussed this bigger tests to come. I am dreading the Arsenal game a bit, but also curious as to how far we have come to be tested against a real decent team. So so far so good. Enjoying it, and bring on the more games.
Yeah. So Stu, moving on from that point, Liverpool and Arsenal under Big Ange. Are you dreading it, or you like bring it on? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, we haven't really the very worst that's going to happen is we're not going to be sat there behind the ball all the game, just trying to defend out a 0-0 or something like that. So I'm going to at least enjoy the game as much as I can do in the same sort of games. But I just think that Ange's going to carry on doing Ange. He's going to be brave. He's going to get us to attack and play our game. And like I said before, I think given where both of those teams are at, I think it is a good time to play them with those games at the moment based on recent form. I always look at it as like a point or anything is a bonus. If we lose, we lose. I'm not going to dwell on it that much because it's so early in the season as well, and it's a good time to get both those kind of games out of the way. I think I think like Brendan said, I'm just quite intrigued to see how these sort of big games how he fares, and I'm quietly confident that he's just going to go at it like he always does. I mean, the guy's faced huge pressure games before, not just in at Celtic at international level. He's done it, so I think that's the great thing about Ange is that people underestimate, I think, how well he can cope in high pressure situations, and I think this is going to be the real true test of it. And I think even just coming back after the international break and getting a result, it's Sheffield United, but we've come unstuck so many times against those sort of teams at home where we've dropped points or we've lost the game 1-0 or something like that. So again, this is another little test because we've now got the gap in momentum. Can he gear that back up really, really quickly? Because I was looking today, Richarlison's playing Wednesday before. So he's going to be coming back from Brazil Thursday, Friday. So I wouldn't be surprised even if he wasn't sort of already benched anyway. So it's those sort of challenges post internationals when everyone's travelling and hopefully, touch wood, not getting any injuries or anything. So for me, that's another very early sort of little challenge as well. How do we cope post international break? But I
mean, this is it. Like, as nice as it was to beat Burnley by a considerable amount, we all know that Burnley helped us out a little bit. Right, in that first half, although we started to dominate things, getting a goal just before halftime really helped, and then Burnley changed their formation, and after that, they were incredibly open for us, and we knew how to take advantage of it. So, as much as it's lovely to win, there is part of me that thinks, okay, well, Burnley helped us out. Sheffield United probably won't. They probably will sit deep and look to frustrate us, and we have to overcome that challenge, as Stuart says. So it's it's tough not to look further ahead because we all want to see Spurs do well in the biggest games, right? Yeah. It's not that we're assuming that we're going to beat Sheffield United. It's just those are the games that we're looking forward to a bit more. But I just feel that it's not even that. I think I said to you either at the start of the show or even before we came on, it's not really the performances or the results that have me excited. It's just the club right now is in such a positive place, and that Ange had basically united the fan base before we'd even played a competitive game this season. Everyone was like, has anyone talked about Harry Kane? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's only been
about him.
3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks since he left, but we don't care because we're winning, and we've got Ange, and Ange is the figurehead now. Spurs are in Ange's image. There's no player that represents Ange better than Ange, right? It's not as if he has someone like him on the pitch, because we all know that he's quite aloof when it comes to his relationships with the players. But to be able to just stand there, kind of, arms folded the whole time, he never seems to be that bothered. He's quite content with what's going on. He's in charge of it. We have an adult, and that's great.
One of the things as well is the change in personnel. Right. Also, I was just going to say internet. Oh, is it your internet? Cool. I'll just say that the key thing as well is the change in personnel has been huge. Even though obviously, like we said, Bissouma and Sarr were here last season, or maybe Sarr was on loan. We got what? Romero is the only real starter from last season. That's huge. We don't really notice that. And Richarlison wasn't starting last season either. So just to have that one player. So when I was thinking about dreading the Arsenal game, I'm like, well, why? Like these are completely different players to last season, bar Romero. It's uncanny the number of changes that Ange has made, but he's done this everywhere he goes. Every team he's gone into, he's made wholesale changes. He's taken away the old guard. He's brought in the new guard in his image, like HG said. So, it's stark the change in personnel that's happened, and we have shifted as I'm sure we'll talk about. Davinson and Ndombele. Yes, was it yesterday they went through the Galatasaray deals?
Yeah,
I think it was. I thought it was Monday, wasn't it? Yeah.
Monday.
I mean, just before we come on to that point, Stu, just a quick one then. Do you think this international break has come at a good time? Do you think it's like we have a break, we get ourselves, back together, and then we go again, or do you think we could have done without it? I know the international break shite anyway, mate, but you know what?
My personal take on it is that you want momentum. So if you're in a good positive momentum, you want to try and keep that going as long as possible, because you get into a winning routine, in that mindset and all that kind of stuff. And I think, the crap thing about the international breaks is that it totally but it's doing that for everyone, isn't it? It's doing that for Man City, Arsenal, whoever. So I would have liked us to have probably another 2 or 3 weeks before an international break, but it is what it is. And I think I suppose the benefit is that Ange and his team will just be probably reviewing all the games, pouring through data, figuring out little tweaks that they can make. And that's the great thing. And there'll also be people like, I don't know, people who haven't been selected who might just get some dedicated coaching time. And we've got people like Bentancur, Brian Hill, Sessegnon. They're going to all be sort of working, keep getting fit. I see a lot of posts from Brian Hill sort of saying soon that he's going to come back. And I'm actually really excited about what he could potentially do under Ange. I'm not expecting him to get back into the team straight away, but he has all of the attributes to be a really good Ange player. So I think having him come back into the mix, I think you could play Sessegnon further up the pitch. Longer term, this might be the time if he can bloody stay fit. So yeah, there'll be a lot of stuff I think going on behind the scenes that I think will benefit us. But yeah, it's just momentum more than anything. We want to keep momentum going as much as possible.
And I think it sounds awful. I think the reason why some of us, it's not just historical that we're worried about the Arsenal game because it's the derby. I do think a lot of fans are looking around and thinking, if this is early days Ange and we're second in the league, a lot is on for Spurs this season. I know that we had we're going to have our late prediction show next week, but I think that some of us might want to change our predictions out just based on what we've seen. And I understand that, of course, we could have a couple of injuries and then we'll be back in the middle of the pack again. But if we don't, and we've got one game a week until Christmas, it does feel as if that maybe the results might be sustainable. The performances certainly should be sustainable because I feel like we're still getting to terms with what he wants us to do. So it's rough because you don't want to think, okay, that everything is on, but we also know that Spurs playing like this can beat anyone. And I know it always felt a bit lucky if we went and beat teams in the last couple of seasons. It really did. Even if we played well, it was almost like, oh, okay, so it does work. Whereas now it feels like, well, what we're trying to do may not work, but it's got a pretty good chance of working, and we can go on and win these games. And I think I read someone saying that if you beat the non-European teams, right, and there's 8 this season, but if there's 7, that's another, 12 teams. If you beat those 12 teams, home and away, you're over 70 points. And 70 points usually gets you Champions League, regardless of whether there's 4 or 5 teams. So if Spurs can really become a flat track bully in the early days, then everything else is kind of, well, we'll see what happens. And it feels as if we've got the ability to go and beat those teams that maybe we feel that we should.
Yeah. So HG, are you giving us hope You're giving us hope that we can achieve something this year.
What I want is I want Spurs fans.
Killed you, mate.
No. Hey, I've always got hope with Spurs, right? I mean, I know it won't happen, but that's regardless. I still have hope that it might. I just I want Spurs to go under the radar. I do, and it's going to be very, very difficult if we continue with the results we're getting. But it's only been 3 weeks since everyone said we were going to finish mid-table without Kane, that we had no chance of doing anything. So I kind of I almost want to hide behind that shield a little bit longer and be like, we've been lucky in these games. We were a bit lucky to beat Man United. Certainly they had chances before we got the opener. And the Brentford game, we were 2-1 down in that. We were 1-0 down at Burnley. We're not steamrollering teams. But we know that we're playing much better than before. And so, of course, we're excited. But I would like Spurs fans to just, we're doing okay. But, anything can happen. Just downplay it. As much as we all think deep down, who knows what might happen. Just, no, we're going to downplay things. We're still learning. We're still a young team. Udogi's, 20 years old. We've got 221 starting for us. We are a young side and we're going to grow. And that's the only emphasis we have right now.
Yeah, I think we can definitely tell HG that you are excited about the future. You seem happy. So I'm just going to say to Crit, this is Glenn Hoddle signed shirt. Shirt's been signed by Glenn Hoddle, so nice piece of memorabilia. But Bren, come on to you, mate. What I was going to talk about is which players have you been really impressed with this season? I know everybody's played their part and everyone's been good. But which players do you think have had, a massive impact on what Ange is trying to do and you've enjoyed watching that progress? I know they've all been good, but, pick a couple out who you feel have really shone for you.
Sure. Well, I mean, the standout players have been, for me, I've been in that midfield. So Bissouma and Maddison just really have transformed the midfield. My previous statements bit off, we had Porro and Son and other players last season, but my point stood is that there have been a lot of personnel changes since last season. But yeah, just to have that creative spark in midfield that we've been crying out for years now, since Eriksen. We've not really, I know we shouldn't be talking about replacing Eriksen, replacing Dembele, etc., but we've not had that creative spark in midfield. Lo Celso didn't really, or hasn't really delivered. And Udogie looks, he's settled in so quickly. He is a player. He is one that will be worth 100 million by next season easily. He is top quality. And yeah, like I said, we go through all of them. Vicario has been great. I was worried that when we opted for the cheap version and didn't go for Raya, but he's looked superb. That save against Burnley when it was only 3-1, I think, or 3
at that point,
yeah. What a save! Like when Romero got the challenge in and it sort of ricocheted up. That was incredible. And again, the celebrations and it was just anyway. Sorry. So yeah, the stand-up players, there've been loads, but yeah, Maddison. I'll go with Maddison.
What about you, Stu? Are you the same? That because like Bren was right for me. That midfield has been transformed. It's hard to believe that Bissouma couldn't really contribute anything to a Conte midfield. It's like beggar's belief, really, isn't it? But is it the same for you, or have you got there other names that you really think have really pushed us on?
Although I actually agree with Brendan, like the transformation on midfield has been incredible. For me to drop a 22-year-old centre-back who's never played in the Premier League before, and for him to come in and do what he's doing at the moment, as in Van der Ven, I'm just like, wow. Absolutely sort of incredible. The fact the guy's not committed a foul yet in the league alongside Romero, I mean, that fact alone is testament to what Ange is doing. Romero's not committed one foul. The two centre-backs haven't committed any fouls. It's absolutely bonkers to me. He's just been incredible. His confidence and his calmness at the back is just like night and day compared to the chaos that we've had to deal with before. It's obviously the combination of having someone who's actually calm and knows what they're doing alongside him, alongside getting the responsibility of being vice captain, has worked wonders on Romero, and that's another masterstroke by Ange doing that. I just think, you look at that back line now, even if you switched out Porro and Royal every now and then, the back line, the average age now is what, I think 22 or something like that. So that's our back line sorted for at least a decade if we wanted it to be. So that's so impressive. I mean, you've got, Phillips, Dorrington in the background coming through as well. So, yeah, I mean, VDV has really, really impressed me. So, and I'll give a little shout out to Doggy as well, because someone mentioned it in the chat. Doggy, what a player. 20 years old. He's incredible.
But remember, the Italian journalist was saying he couldn't play fullback and that he was a wing back only. Yeah. And the thing is, but we don't need him to play fullback. I mean, that's a nominal position for him, right? He's not going to be defending against a right winger that often. And when he is, we've seen it already. He's tall and he's got speed. So it's going to have to be those small wingers that might succeed against him. I find it maybe they're thinking about a fullback in a kind of the old school 4-2-3-1 that bombed forward when he got the chance, but was actually more defensive. Yeah, well, that's not going to be his game at Spurs, and it wasn't his game at Udinese. So yeah, it may well fit, but what we want him to do at Spurs is actually very similar to what he was doing at Udinese. So no wonder he has fit quite well. But I mean, if we're talking about as much as players have impressed, and they all have, I can't look past Ange. Everything is Ange for me. Everything is Ange. The reason, it sounds awful. The reason that we didn't make it through in the League Cup was Ange, in my opinion. So there are negatives there if you want to focus on it, which I don't. But I just think that the entire club is positive because he is, right? And all those people, and there were so many Spurs fans in the summer that were aghast at the idea of him taking over. That he'd only been at Celtic, he'd been in these leagues that no one had watched, and yet anyone can win stuff at Celtic. Well, that may well be true, but as we've talked about before, if you judge people on what they've won, then Postecoglou isn't as good as Conte, but we can see already that actually he's much better for us. It's about who the person is rather than the titles or the awards or whatever that they might have. It has to be, what will he bring to you? Will he help you become what you want to be? And as the king of the rebuild, I'm not sure there was a better manager for Spurs available than Postecoglou.
Yeah, incredible. And that was the thing, he wasn't actually available, was he? We had to get him out of Celtic. So the fact that the club actually went, right, okay, we are going to go and get someone out of another club, because we could have quite easily just kept looking around and seeing who was in the market, who wasn't employed at that time. And like you say, HG, I think based on what we need right now, he is the best manager to do that. And, I know the board gets a lot of stick, and rightly so, over a lot of stuff, but they made the decision to bring him in. So you've got to praise that, and they've backed him as much as they can. I mean, the fact that they've just sort of got rid of Ndombele and Sanchez in the way they have within a matter of days after, the Cup, and just sort of trimming down the squad and getting rid of a central defender and not bringing him in, but effectively just giving the green light to Phillips to say, you're going to be in the first team, mate. So, it's that sort of stuff that I love about Ange. And I think you shared a quote earlier in the chat, HG, about what he's like in terms of bringing in talent or identifying areas that he just doesn't lead around, and he will focus on the players that are actually going to do stuff, and then he just won't. It will just basically bin off the ones that don't, and we're seeing that with Lloris and Dejan. Like you say, all these decisions are Ange. So if he's leading the way, I'm a happy man.
Yeah, and so it's just like fans, by their very nature, are short-termers, right? We want to win the next game. We want to have the bragging rights on Monday. We want to enjoy that feeling of saying that our team is better than yours, right? But if it's a year from now, and let's say we finish fifth, right, or fifth or sixth, we have Europa League football. It's obviously an improvement, but we've got Ashley Phillips, who's played 15, 20 games in the Premier League for Spurs. Well, we will be further ahead at the start of next season with him having done that than we would have been had Sanchez played those 15 games. Maybe, we've lost one place in the table, but Ange is thinking about what he needs to not just qualify for Europe, not just qualify for the Champions League. He's not in it to make up the numbers, and that is a great feeling. Right, because I don't want Spurs to make up the numbers. I love it when we do well, and I'm happy when we finish top four. I am, because it represents something, but that is not the end of the road, and it shouldn't be.
And that's the difference for Ange as well. Sorry, Gibbo. Just want to say this bit. when Mourinho's come in and when Conte's come in, they've come in with the mentality that Spurs are not good enough to win the league, to win trophies. They need X, Y, and Z. And it was always that. It was always more. I need more. Ange's mentality is simply, I want to win. And we will win. If we play the way that I believe we can, we will win stuff. And that mentality is gold dust. Because if you drum it into players that you're not going to win and you're not good enough, that's the mentality that's there. Yeah. Whereas it's totally different. With like the Burnley game was a prime example of we concede after 4 minutes. If that was under Conte or Mourinho, guarantee you we probably wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't even come back in the game, let alone coming back after about 10 minutes and getting the equaliser. I wasn't worried at all because I know the mentality is that we're going to just keep going, and we'll score. It wasn't a matter of if we're going to score; it was just when. And then the doors opened, and we obviously won the game. And it's. I don't know if it's a small thing or a big thing, but just that mentality shift, you're seeing it already in the way the players are operating in games. So that's only going to get better and better and better. And God knows, he doesn't have sort of targets, does he? We'll just win. We'll just go.
Just on that as well, he has always said, judge me on the second season. He said first season, there's always that transition. So can you imagine, like next season, this is already really good with 4 games in. Can you imagine next season when he's got more of his players in, when he's got things clicking and the machine moving? The sky is the limit. This season, fair enough, top 4 will be amazing. But next season, dare we dream?
I think that's what his attitude is right now. I don't think he's going the top 4 will be all right. He'll go just win the games and we'll see where we're at and just keep going.
The fact that he's willing to let like Sanchez go and put his trust in Phillips, knowing you can't bring anyone, that will also, positivity will go around the training. People will see that and think, that's a bold move. That's brave, fair play. Do you know what I mean? And the younger lads coming through will think, if I'm going to get an opportunity, if I can prove I'm good enough, this guy will give me a go. And it's just like everything he does, like there were people saying, oh, we're going to be left short. But he's like, nah, I don't want these people round. I'm looking forward. He's looking forward. He doesn't want to stagnate with the likes. He's looking to move forward. And that is a breath of fresh air, isn't it? That's what's really good. But, I've got one comment here and I'm going to come to Brendan on it first of all. So obviously he was your man. Is it up on the screen? So, do we continue with him at number 9, Bren, or is your man going to come back in? What are your thoughts on that? Because that's a big decision for Ange, how he carries on with the forward since Kane's gone, isn't it? How do you think that plays out?
See, I think I'm going to use a HGism here, and I'm going to say horses for courses. I think that we kind of know what Son gives us. He gives us that directness, that pace, and the finishing ability that Richarlison doesn't. So when teams are pushing up like Burnley did, Burnley under Company, they're not the Burnley under Dyche. So when a team does play a high line, Son's perfect for that. But when we do have to have a bit more of a battering ram, someone to press and push them deep, then Richarlison can come in. I think that we were talking about the international break and the pros and cons. I think it's probably a good thing for Richarlison that it's come now. I think he needs a break. You can see the emotion on him. I don't think he was happy being dropped against Burnley, but there will be games for him. So I think, Son is probably number 1 after his performance against Burnley, but we've got the options. And I think having Richarlison, he is a £60 million player. He is Brazil's number 9. He is training with Brazil. He is playing in Brazil and we're playing in Peru as well, I think. So certainly after the international break, I can see Son taking it because I don't think Son's air miles are quite as many as Richarlison's this international break. But it's just good to have the options. And I mean, we were crying out for a striker as well. You've got options.
Yeah, and the fact the goal that Richarlison scored at Fulham is a Richarlison goal, right? Like you put the ball in the box and you'll get on the end of it. And he's not going to score the goals that Son does. Like had he gone through, for the last goal, had he been clean through just to keep it to beat against Burnley, I don't think he would have finished it. I'd have been nervous. I'm not nervous with Son. That's what he's good at. He wants the ball in front of him. He wants to look at goal, and he will find the net. We've all seen the stats about how much he overperforms his XG, Son. And Richarlison, I can't imagine that he does. But there have been the chances that he has had this season when the ball's been at his feet, he's either made the wrong choice or tried to cut inside, and it's just not there. But that doesn't mean he won't be useful. I mean, he will have uses, and we may well need to throw him on in the hope of doing something different. But I just, right now, considering how well it went, you'd have to think Son's going to be the man. We've got so many options to play wide, whether it's be Perisic or Solomon. Solomon, I don't think did a great deal, but he came out with 2 assists. And if for people who love that stat, well, what more do you want? I mean, this is like you have to base your opinion on what you're seeing. If Spurs win 5-2 with Richarlison, to me he keeps his spot, right? But we won it with Solomon and with Son, so therefore, no matter who you're playing, I think those should be the ones going forward.
Stu, are you going to agree? Are we going to have a hat trick that Son keeps his place as the number 9, or are you going to be controversial?
No, I think I can't see him changing it. I mean, why would you? If any of them come out of the international break with an injury, yes, you'll see a change. But I'm expecting at the Sheffield United game, because even Johnson coming in, Johnson's a really exciting signing, but I don't anticipate Ange will chuck him in from the start. Because why would you drop Solomon at the moment? Why would you drop Kulusevski? Although both have been, Kulusevski especially because he's played more games at the moment, he's still not at the peak form that he was at when he first signed. But he's a good player and he does good things during the games. And the same with Solomon. I think Solomon needs to get stronger. I think he was moved off the ball very, very quickly in a couple of occasions against Burnley, but he's quick, he's direct, he takes people on. So I think it will start with the same team, I think.
Yeah, he's better than Jose Dominguez, isn't he? He's an upgrade on him.
But like Brendan and HG have said, we've always been crying out to have options, and we've got good options across the park at the moment. So, and that's the thing, that Ange makes it all work. Like HG keeps saying, it's all about Ange. A player will come in, and they generally do well. Yeah, as long as you make 9 changes, and then they don't.
So Bren, how's Ange going to make Brennan Johnson work then? In your opinion, what do you think of that signing, and where do you see him being deployed?
Well, I think it's a good signing. I think Ange said he's wanted him for a while. I don't know if that means he wanted him when he was at Celtic or what, but he certainly did want him at Celtic. Yeah. Okay, so he's a player that he's identified as fitting his system. He's versatile, so he can play in any of the front 3 positions. So if worst case scenario, both Son and Richarlison get injured, we can play him through the middle. He looks a bit lightweight, perhaps, but he's got that pace. It clocked up the fastest sprint in the Premier League last season against Man City, I think it was. Yeah. So I think his natural position is where Kulusevski is, to the right of the 3. So that's where I think maybe he will probably be brought on. I agree. I don't think he'll start. I think we'll stick with Kulusevski for now. But like I said, he can play across those. He can cut in. He can play on the left as well and cut in from there as well. So I think he'll be eased in. Like I said, I'm not sure if he'll be started, but he excites me. Was it 8 goals and 11 assists? Was it, or was it the other way around or something? Or
8 goals. Did he score 8 goals and 3 assists?
Yeah,
8 goals and 3 assists. Sorry, was it? Okay,
something like that. Bren, you probably know more than me. I hear these stats and then they just sort of go on. HG, where do you see him fitting in then? Do you see anything different from? Is he a right winger? Is he a left winger? Mainly, I know like Bren said, he can probably cover all those roles. And I think I was listening to a pod the other day where they sort of said he played on the right hand side of a front 2 for Forest, but more likely that will be in an Ange system, would be more likely right wing. Is that where you see him fitting in?
It's weird. Every time I saw him play for Forest, I wasn't impressed. I mean, genuinely, I was like, okay, a few fancy things, but I've always thought Gibbs White was the one who stood out at Forest. And I could see us going for Gibbs White next summer. But anyway, it's a different conversation. Like, I think when I did do one of those awful, YouTube highlight reels, I noticed that Brennan Johnson is a very good finisher off either foot. He puts it in the corner. So I'm going to be a bit different here. I actually think he might start over Kulusevski straight on, because as we've seen in a couple of comments, he's more of an Ange player, as King Dom says, right? Like, Ange wants those wingers to stay wide or go either way, and Kulusevski doesn't. And we've seen a number of times already this season that Kulusevski, he wants to cut in, he wants to try and get a shot away, and the most effective thing he's done has been on the end of some wing play rather than actually produce the wing play. So I wouldn't be surprised. It's a lot of money to spend on Johnson, but if Ange just wanted him, I mean, I assume if you wanted him at Celtic, then that would have been the year that Forest went up. It wouldn't have been last season, because there's no way they'd have got him had Forest gone up when Forest went up. So he's seen him at Lincoln, and he's thought, this is the type of player I want at Celtic. If you've wanted a player for a couple of years and now you've got him, to me, I think he's going to go straight into the team. Van der Ven did it, although the need was obviously higher with him. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I really wouldn't be surprised. I think Brennan Johnson and Ange, he's obviously wanted him. And as much as I never saw it at Forest, I could see the skill set he has, how it would work with Ange.
I suppose the only problem, the only thing that would hold him back is that he hasn't trained within the squad yet and stuff like that. I mean, but they'll have a few days before the Sheffield United game. But I'd love to see him come straight in. But
here's the question, Stu. And I'll go around. If you bring Brennan Johnson straight in, what does your front three look like then? Do you go Johnson, Solomon, Son, or do you change things slightly if Johnson comes into that front three?
For me, I would love to see Kulusevski on the left, because he's naturally left-footed. Johnson on the right, Son in the middle, because they're all playing on to take the ball forward and then be able to cross it,
old-fashioned,
cut in, and all that kind of stuff. So I'd love to see them mess around with that. And I think that's
old school.
Yeah, I think we're going to just see loads of different like rotations of it, and that's the great thing about handball. And I saw it a lot with the Celtic lineups. Is there would be little tweaks in the lineup every now and then, and I think that's what we'll do. And we have got a wealth of options up front. So I think depending on the team we're playing and stuff like that, it'll tweak it. But we've got a hell of a lot of pace now, and I think we just need to do it where Kulu just needs to go on a run, take someone on, because he can do it. He's got the skill, but then he keeps having to stop and cut back in to get it onto his natural foot. And I think if he's on the left, he can just run and then cross the ball or pass the ball in without having to stop. So I'd really like to see that, personally.
I don't think he trusts his sort of own pace, if you know what I mean. He isn't a quick player, is he? And I think I think that's the one little thing that holds him back. Slightly. I'm not saying he's a great player. I love watching him play. I think he's a great footballer. Bren, how do you see that front three lining up now we've got Johnson?
I think
your opinion and what you think Ange is probably going to do.
Yeah, I think we'll, after the Burnley game, I think we've seen a winning formula. Like we said, Solomon grew into the game. One of the good things watching the game back, or watching it during the game actually, when just before Son's first goal, there was it was give and go with Maddison. He just overplayed the pass, but there was no reaction. There was no anger from Maddison. He was just like, he gave him this little thing, just a bit lighter. And I love to see that the team spirit in there. But anyway, gone off a tangent there. But I can see him going with the same front three. So Solomon and Sonny and Kulusevski, and maybe swapping Kulusevski with Brennan Johnson. I'm not sure about playing Kulusevski on the left, but if that's his natural side, because he always cuts in when he's on the right. So is he naturally left-footed then?
Yeah, he is a left footer.
Oh, okay. So that sort of things a podcast host should know. But yeah, I think he'll stick with the front three that went with at Burnley.
HG, obviously you spoke about it before, but what do you see that front three being, either like when we come back or when it's in full flow? Everybody's trained, everybody's playing to their full strengths. What is that front three?
I mean, if you're talking about if everyone's fit, then the left-hand side really does become a bit of a, like all of them are good. We've got a number of options. Like
Charlison on the left?
No.
Just to throw that in there?
No.
He play there for Everton though before Calvert-Lewin got injured.
Yeah. Oh, he's played there a lot. He played there, I think, even for Watford when he first signed in the Premier League. But it's a different role, right? I mean, to me, it's a different role. Like if you're playing that old school 4-3-3 with let's say a right footer on the left who can cut in and score the odd goal, that's okay. But that's not what he does for Brazil, and I don't think it's going to be what he does for Spurs at any point.
No.
Because he likes, to me at least, Richarlison likes to have the defender behind him, right? He likes to use his body. He likes to move away from people. And in Ange's system, that's only going to happen as a number 9. I don't think he's going to see it that much if he's playing down the wing. So, but if you're talking about who's fit, I mean, Perisic, Solomon, Bryan Hill, even, like all of those, I think would be better options down the left-hand side than Richarlison, even Sessegnon, to be fair. Because I think it's all about holding the width and creating space in the middle for your number 10s to attack the box, whether it's Maddison or Sarr or Bentancur when he's fit. So, like for the next game, it wouldn't surprise me if it was Solomon, Son, and Johnson. It really wouldn't. But yeah, like it's again, we've got so many options. I don't think there's necessarily a bad one, but I do feel that having spent the money for Johnson, he's going to play. He's going to play down that right hand side. And right now, Perisic is a pretty good sub option to come on and help see games out. I'm not sure he's going to be a starter too often in Ange's system, if only for the fact that he may not be around next season and Ange's going to want to build. Like Perisic exactly. Perisic he's out of contract at the end of the year. Højbjerg probably won't stay longer than this year. So there's a reason that they're on the bench. I do believe that. Like keep them around by all means, and they provide a lot to the squad. But once everyone's fit, I think he's going to go Solomon and Bryan Hill more than over anyone else on that left-hand side.
Yeah. I mean, guys, just a quick one. Come on, 226 watching now, 67 likes. Hit the like. Come on. If you're watching it, just hit the like. Just do us a favour. Come on, tap the like button. But no, I mean, we've spent nearly an hour now. We've waxed lyrical about Ange. We spoke about the players. Have we mentioned Bissouma tonight? We've been talking about these players and how good they've been. Have we really gone into what difference Bissouma makes to that midfield? You know, what the fact that he couldn't get with the programme last season under Conte, just couldn't get to grips with the tactical aspect of the game. Yet he's literally been probably one of the main reasons that what's transformed how we play, like having a deep line midfielder who can actually carry the ball and take players on and like move players out of position. He's been amazing, hasn't he, Bren? Bissouma. I love watching him play. He's just sort of like, it's just like brilliant watching him. It's just good fun.
Yeah, I think we the stats came out of the top 5 leagues. I don't have the actual stat, but of the top 5 leagues, he's a higher tackle percent. It's more interceptions and more tackles than he got double figures for interceptions and tackles, something like that. And the most out of any player in the top 5 leagues. He's been superb, and it's again sort of a damning indictment on Conte, where you'd see him in training and go, nah, not for me. Like, what is going on? The guy, it's not just his defensive discipline and that sort of ability to pick up the ball from defense. It's progressing with the ball, moving it forward, getting involved with the front players. And you can see him as well in terms of the camaraderie, this team spirit that he has. Is at the end of the game, he's always dancing. He was sort of leading the cheers, the hip hip hoorays and whatever from the fans after the Burnley game. He looks like such an important member of the squad, which we were hoping he would be last season. But for whatever reason, Conte just didn't see it, which again just raises question marks over Conte, which there are plenty of question marks. But yeah, he's been superb, absolute legend.
Yeah, HG, I'm sure you agree, don't you? He's been transformative, really.
Yeah, no, I agree with Conte. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Look, Conte was right.
I feel like the biggest damnation of what Conte thought is that we've just listed a bunch of stats about Bissouma that would be exactly what Conte wanted his midfielders to do. Right? Like, it's not about all the fancy tricks and flicks in the box, although we've seen that this season with Bissouma. Like, we saw it even in the pre-season game where you think he's 8 yards out and he nutmegs the defender before putting it wide. Like, he's so comfortable on the ball, wherever he is on the pitch. And, of course, there's some nervousness because you think he might get caught out. And I feel like even in the Burnley game, he wasn't great first half. But if he's on it, Spurs will play well. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Bissouma is like other teams will realise very quickly that they need to stop Bissouma getting the ball because he's the one that makes us tick.
Sorry to jump in. I found the stats. So 11 interceptions made, 16 tackles made, and 11 take-ons completed. The only player in Europe's big 5 leagues to have achieved that. Over 10 of all those 3. Sorry.
Yeah, and we're playing as a team that has the ball. So it's actually more difficult to win the ball because we have it most of the time. So it's not as if he's getting it's like when you see 20 years ago when Shay Given had the best save percentage. But you're like, yeah, because he was saving and having to save an awful lot of shots, right? So he looked better than maybe he was because he was just busy. With Bissouma, to have those stats when we have the ball most of the time is incredible. And I feel like, when Bentancur comes back, like he could do that role that Bissouma does. I genuinely believe that. He may not be as good as Bissouma, but he can do it. That's what he did at Juventus. He liked to get the ball and would sit deep. Bentancur could take Sarr's role because we saw him score a bunch of goals for Spurs last season before he got injured. He was there or thereabouts in the box. The home game against Leeds, I remember, where he got the winner, basically supporting Kulusevski. It's little things like that with these midfielders that we've got, we have options. We really do have options. The fact that Højbjerg, who basically played every game for Spurs since he joined, is now, when everyone's fit, maybe 5th choice. It's a completely different team. It's like we're playing a different sport. Like it looks like we're a football team again, rather than kabaddi, like holding your breath and hoping that the other team fail. That's basically what we did under Conte, and now we look like a football team.
Yeah, Stu. I mean, I'm sure you're going to finish it off with obviously in the same sort of manner. What do you reckon was happening in training? Do you reckon Bissouma was doing all these things, like carrying the ball forward, nutmegging people, drawing people out, and Conte was just sort of sat there, I can't have this. Can't have this in my team. It's no good for anybody. It's just, he's not boring enough. There's not enough sideways passing going on here. We can't have this bloke in the team.
Conte, I think the problem with people like Conte, and he's very similar to Mourinho, is that I think he doesn't like players who can think for themselves and can do stuff off the cuff, because he likes things to be so regimented. And like at this phase of the play, you will do this. There's no deviation. If the ball comes into you, you then pass it over there. With Ange, it's like do what you want within a certain framework, and if you mess up, that's fine. Keep going. And I think that was the problem. Is that he's very good at what he does, but he is unpredictable in a way as well. And that's what I love about him. He is the sort of Ndombele that we were all hoping we were getting with Ndombele. But that hasn't materialised. So I think he, again, at 26, he can be the key member of our midfield for a long time yet. And when Bentancur comes back, my God. I'm quite happy with what Sarr's doing. I'm really impressed with Sarr, considering how young he is. But to have Bentancur and Bissouma in that midfield behind Maddison, holy shit! Holy crap! I can't wait for that. And I think the only nervousness I have going forward is the AFCON and how long both him and Sarr might be out for, because I don't know. Do you put Skipp in there? Is there someone else? I mean, are we going to brave Højbjerg?
I was just about to come on to that, Stu. So we'll move on from there. So basically, we've waxed lyrical, like I said, about Ange. We've talked about the players who we think have made a big difference and how good they are. So obviously, we brought Brennan Johnson in. The transfer window shut. We got rid of Davinson Sanchez. We've obviously let Ndombele go, who's and even worth talking about. He's a fresh air thief, basically, at our club. So, Bren, the transfer window's shut, and so we've got 13 games now till it opens again. Were you satisfied with how we look now? Now that squad is set, and what we've got. Do you think we came out of that doing enough, or do you think there was a little bit more we could have done, but you're happy?
I think we always want more. I think the outgoings I'm satisfied with. I think we did the sea change in the old guard just going. And I saw an article about Lloris today, which was quite interesting in the why he hasn't moved on yet. That he had the opportunity to go to Nice, but he wasn't satisfied with the sporting project or something, and sort of dallied there, and which he's entitled to do. But all in all, the outgoings, brilliant. We could have done what like you said earlier. We may look a bit light defensively. One injury to Romero, or he gets his standard suspension, or Van der Ven bringing in Phillips. Or do we get draft Eric Dyer back in? So there's a bit of a risk there. Another defender would have been good. Midfield's looking great. As we said, we got Bentancur to come back, and perhaps another striker. We spoke about Gift Orban before, and the fee wasn't that high, so it may have been worth a punt there. But all in all, I'd give it maybe a 7.5 out of 10. The window.
7.5.
Yeah,
7.5. HG, how do you feel we've come out of that? And are you satisfied with? Not even with the business we've done, but because we could always add more. Like Brent says, we always want more. But are you sort of satisfied with how that squad is? And you think, look, it is what it is. We can cover those positions, even if it's not, like somebody's put with a centre back short. But he trusts Phillips, and I'm sure there's other things he thinks he can do to fill those gaps. So, are you with Ange on that, mate?
Look, we have a manager that looks at the players that he has, figures out who can do what he wants, and goes with it, right? And if we didn't have the players that he wanted, I think he would try and adapt a little bit too. It's like I feel like we have a manager who he talked about it himself. He doesn't say, "I don't believe in club signings," right? That's what he said. He doesn't believe in club signings. They're his players, and so he will either teach them to do what he wants them to do, or do you know what I mean? It just feels. I feel like even though Conte left in March, right? Swapping Conte for Ange made the summer. Everything else, it's great that we've got these players in, and a lot of that might be down to Paratici, certainly the ones who signed last season, but the ones that Ange has been involved in, well, Maddison was a bit of a no-brainer. Brennan Johnson probably came out of nowhere for a lot of Spurs fans, but Ange clearly wants him. But I feel like the other signings that we've made, they could well have been ones that we'd had an eye on anyway. Like Mane Solomon felt like an opportunity, and now it looks like he might be a very good squad player. But at the beginning, a lot of Spurs fans didn't really know who he was or what he'd done because he hadn't played that much for Fulham. So the summer to me will always be about Ange. Like everything. I mean, I don't want to. Everything is about Ange right now. The players will do what Ange tells them to do, and they will enjoy it, and they will be good at it because they have skill sets to do what Ange wants them to do. The reason that we struggled against Fulham is because those players who were on the outs aren't as good at doing it. Like they may well be better at doing it in 5-6 months' time if they play the FA Cup third round game. But right now, like Solomon, who started on the right wing in that game, like he had Skipp behind him, and then Skipp had Emerson Royal behind him. Like those aren't, and then Sanchez was next to. Those aren't the progressive ball players that Solomon would need to get the ball and do some damage. So he didn't look as great down the right. As soon as he went down the left, he had a chance, and it was a decent effort. So I just feel that when the players get more in tune with what Ange wants them to do, like the squad will improve. Not just in buying new players, but people will get better at what he wants.
Yeah, Stu, your take on the transfer window, how it finished, and where you think it leaves us.
It's really funny, because I was on the transfer deadline show with some of the other guys, James and Dave.
Oh, mate, they're hard work transfer deadline day shows.
And I remember being on there and it was sort of quite. I was quite downbeat at the end of the show, and I think we ended up giving it a 4.5 or something like that. And I think having sat on it, and you look at the squad as it is now, and the amount of games we've got, and all that kind of stuff, and I think if we can keep everyone relatively fit, we'd have to have one hell of an injury sort of scenario to have multiple players out in all positions. With only 13 games between now and January, I think we'll be fine. And I think for me, it's more around not just the actual, bringing people in to do X, Y, or Z. The biggest shift I wanted to see was in the mentality. So to see people like Sanchez go out the door, he's a good servant to the club, good guy. His mentality, like in games, is awful. And you see it every time he was on the pitch. He put the effort in, but he could not cope in high-pressure situations. And Ndombele is just a turd. He's come in to take a wage and that's it. He's not there to progress himself or do anything for the club. So you need people like that out of the club.
Yeah, rock bad eggs, aren't they?
Yeah, you need people all in, right? And I think we're going to see Dye and Lloris. I don't think either of them are going to get registered. I think I'll be very surprised if Dye gets registered because I'm not being funny. If Dye had any sniff playing, he would have been on the bench in any one of the games that we've played so far, especially the cup game. And we've been calling out for a long time for a manager or a setup where we're going to actually trust some of our youth because we've got a bloody good academy at the moment. And I'm really, really happy to see that pathway begin to open up under Ange. So long may that continue. But yeah, I'm in post-transfer window. I'm in a good place. I don't think we need to do a huge amount in January. I think we might need to get another midfielder in just to cover. I can see Højbjerg go in. He's put a few statements out, and that I think he'll do his job if he's called upon. I don't think he particularly wants to be there, and I think if Ange could have got rid of him, he would have done. So I think we'll make it a little bit there. Maybe get another centre back. But we don't need much more. We really don't.
Did you notice how Højbjerg screwed over his old club Bayern? Because he basically Bayern didn't get Palhinha because Fulham couldn't get a replacement, and Fulham wanted Højbjerg, but Højbjerg felt he was too big for Fulham, so he didn't go. Screwed over Bayern, and Tuchel might get sacked. But yeah, I mean, the thing is with the deadline day as well, like the fact that we were annoyed that we didn't get Conor Gallagher. Really, like I was. The deadline days always gives up these weird.
Never put a bid in. Romano said we didn't even put a bid in, so a lot of the stuff that's getting touted out is bollocks anyway. It's just like wait until you see all the facts come. Didn't even put a bid in for it.
No, they didn't put a bid in, did they? Because we had to move Højbjerg first. I think I've got the feeling if we'd have moved Højbjerg on, we would have gone for him. Now, I've always liked Højbjerg, but I think in this system, I think Conor Gallagher would have been a better option for Ange in, the style he plays. But it's gone now. It doesn't matter, does it? We've got what we've got. And, if we need to do anything or we were prepared to do anything, we'll do that in January. But what I did want to come on to was, you guys will probably correct me if I'm wrong. Is there another international break in October?
Yeah.
So I think, because if you've seen me, I've been looking at our fixtures. So we're now 3 wins and a draw, unbeaten. So we come through this international break, and when we come out, we've got Sheffield United at home, big game away at Arsenal, home to Liverpool, and then I believe we're away to Luton, and then if I read it right, then it looks like we're on another international break. So Bren, when you're looking at those. If you're looking at those 4 fixtures, where do you think? I know where you'd obviously like us to be, but where do you think we'll be when those 4 fixtures are gone by? Do you think we'll know a little bit more about what we're all about? Do you think we'll still be in a good place, or do you think this is going to be the part where where it's the real test of our mettle?
Well, obviously the standout fixtures there are Liverpool and Arsenal. We still haven't beaten Liverpool at the new stadium, so that's one I'm looking forward to more than Arsenal. I'd say.
Please beat them.
Yeah, so I think, like I said, these are the 2 big teams that will be the biggest test. United has been our biggest test so far. We beat them, but United aren't really up to much, as we saw. They crumbled late on against Arsenal. I think. If we can, I think the Arsenal game will be a draw. I think 2-2. I think we get quite a few 2-2 draws with Arsenal. I might be making that up. And if we beat Liverpool at home, that would be rocking. And obviously, I think the Luton and Sheffield United games are gimmies, but are very winnable. Bearing in mind how we're playing, so I'd say we'd still be in the top 4 come the second international break. And you're right. We will know a lot more about this team after those tough games.
HG, I mean, I'll come to you for your opinion, but you know which one scares me out of them four?
Luton.
Luton away.
Yeah. I think it's a Saturday lunchtime kickoff as well.
I'm just an old Spurs. Do you know what I mean? It's just, you can just see it, can't you? But hopefully, go on, you carry on. But
I think the main thing for me is to realise, as much as I want Spurs to be unbeaten, right? Because I love the idea of us going a whole season unbeaten. 9 points is better than 8, right? If we win 3 and lose 1, we are better off than if we draw 2 and win 2. And that seems it doesn't seem right, but yeah, I suppose if we're going to lose one, it may as well be Luton, and we win the others, it won't matter so much. But it's all about accumulation of points. Like, the reason we're not in Europe is because of dropped points at the end of the season. The point that we could have had at Liverpool, the point that we could have had at home against Bournemouth, I think it was, like, that would have put us in Europe, and then we'd be playing all these players, and we'd have more games to look forward to, and we'd be watching Ange ball twice a week. The thing now is that all of the teams around us in the Premier League, at the top of the league, they all have European football. I think it's only Brentford that don't, right? But everyone else up there, West Ham, Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, all the ones that have won at least 2 games, I think the only one who hasn't is Forest. Maybe it's like we've got a massive opportunity that with 1 game a week, we can just win regularly. And we saw that last season with Arsenal. They had basically a Europa League team that focused on that, but they won a lot of games early on in the season to go to be top of the league for as long as they were. Spurs, it's not impossible that we do that. Right? We are not as far down the line, but it is not impossible. Like, we beat Man United when we weren't a great deal better than them. We just took the chances and got the goals. We can do that against Liverpool. We can do that at Arsenal. But it's all about us, and we are actually going to have a go, which is really all that any of us want to do. After 4 years of being defensive, like we could have had Tony Pulis in charge, but if he was playing attacking football, we wouldn't care, right? But the fact is, we've got Ange in charge who knows what he's doing. It's great. It's like people can laugh that it's only been 4 games, but every Spurs fan is massively optimistic because we know the potential of the squad that we have. We had good football players last season. We just didn't utilise them. Now we've got a few more, and we're utilising them much better. We can only look up.
I frigging love this positivity, lads. I ain't been on. This is the first time I've been on all season. I'm buzzing for it now. Stu, we're due against Arsenal and Liverpool, aren't we? We're due results against them. I mean, I can't stick Liverpool. I really can't stick them. There's nothing. I don't want to go all Kevin Keegan on this show, but I would absolutely love it if we beat them. I mean, I would love it. We're due, aren't we, Stu? Come on, tell me we're due.
Mate, we are. And like, when you look at especially the Liverpool games last season, like, you know, the away game, we should have at least got a draw out of that, and it just went tits up thanks to a little more special right at the end. And you know, again, I keep talking about it. It's about mentality. If you're going into the game thinking that you're an inferior team, the very likely scenario is that you're going to come out without anything. And I just think Ange is very, very different. He will go into those games and be like, just play your game and we'll win. And that's it. It's a very simple message, but it's one that he translates really well. So I think we have to take advantage of the early part of the season, and just and just go for it.
Don't worry, mate.
And just go for it, because it can't be like the Arsenal away game cannot be any worse than last season. I had the unfortunate opportunity of going on into their corporate, which was really rubbish, and then the game
all the season before, Stu, that was horrendous under Nuno. That performance there.
Yeah. So as long as we put out a team that's going to turn up and actually play a team that will function in the game, and not, you know, if you think about the game against Arsenal last season, 2 of the goals were just complete farces. You know, Lloris pretty much put the ball in the net. One of them. You know, so I don't think it's little things like that will cost you in those games, and I just don't see that sort of stuff happening in the team we've got, because it's so well drilled, and we've got a bunch of players who seem quite competent. So, you know, for me, if we can come out of those 2 games in particular with 4 points, I'll be always happy with a draw away at Arsenal. I'll be happy, and we can build on that. I think it will give the team so much confidence.
Yeah. So let's go around. Brent, after their next 4 games, are we still in the top 4?
Yes.
HG. Come on.
All right, go on. Yes.
That's the type of shit.
No, I mean, I want to say no. I do want to say no.
Of course you do.
But as I said before, I want, like, we can be outside the top 4 on goal difference, right? Like, so right now, the teams around us are winning games. So, maybe we'll have, what do you got, 10 now? Maybe we'll have 18, 19 points, and maybe that will be there or thereabouts. But to me, it's all about kind of staying under the radar. I don't want us being second right now. I'd like us to be where Liverpool are, where no one's really talking about them, even though they are blowing teams away, right?
Yeah.
I want us to hide a little bit more.
Rob's got it. Rob's got it sussed up. He expects to be first. What about you? What about you, Stu? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think we'll still be in a similar position to what we are now. I think that, the thing is as well that the week we come back from the international break is when Europe starts as well. So a lot of the teams around us, Liverpool, they're in Europa, aren't they?
Yeah.
Man City, Arsenal, they're all going to start their campaigns. So, it's going to be that start of Wednesday, Thursday football, coming back, potentially tired squads and all that kind of stuff. And that's what we need to take advantage of. It's worked against us so many times that I think, that's what we need to take advantage of this season and really go. Because if you look at the teams who haven't even started Europe yet, like Brighton, Villa, United, Newcastle, they're already behind and they haven't even started the European campaigns yet. So, we just need to take advantage of having that clear time in our schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, lads, absolutely fantastic, positive pod. Great one to come back on. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Firstly, 225 people watching tonight. Hit the like button if you haven't. Really appreciate it. All your comments, all sort of respectful, all worthwhile. I've tried to put as many as I can up. So thanks to you guys. And Brendan, mate, thanks for dropping in and making up the 4. It's nice to see you, mate. Thank you.
Mate, it's a pleasure. Great to see you. Great to see you guys. And yeah, looking forward to come back on again soon.
Cheers, Brendan.
Yep. Cheers, Brent. And Stu, nice first date, mate. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, we'll hook up.
Been nice to talk. We'll do it again sometime, yeah?
Yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely. Can I just quickly say, Gibbo, as well, that we have got another ticket giveaway on the Cheese podcast. So that'll be for the Sheffield United game.
Yeah.
So if people tune in next week and continue to subscribe and like, then you'll have a chance of having that second game back in for more Ange Ball at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I think it's going to be another great atmosphere game. So, tune in.
Tickets are like hotcakes now, right? I mean, you can't get a ticket for love nor money because we're exciting to watch.
Yeah.
Very generous of you, Stu. And HG, thanks for coming on. It's nice to be back with you on our regular Wednesday night slot, mate. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have.
I always like talking Spurs, especially when we can be positive. It has felt like it's been a while, but I mean, I enjoyed it. I hope everyone watching enjoyed it. And was it every Monday, Wednesday, Friday we're on? So there's shows all the time. It's not just me, but we've got lots going on.
Keep an eye on the socials. Keep tuned in, and as always, guys, come on, you Spurs!
Come on, you Spurs!
Go on, you Spurs!